What's going on, beautiful people? It's your boy, Mr. Meyer, with the fire, here to share ideas, take our collective vibration higher. It's a beautiful day. We're out in nature. It's our Nine of Pentacles vibe. And I want to talk about Virgo, the sixth sign of the zodiac, and share this stream of conscious with you guys, because I'm a Virgo ascendant. I live this energy every day without thinking about it, and that's amazing. And it's the challenge, in my opinion, very biased opinion. Virgo is one of the most beautiful signs of the zodiac, but I will do my best to substantiate that claim and tell you why I think that, okay? There's a lot of ways to break down this energy, this archetype, this force that we all experience within our chart. It's really important. Some people don't think that they have the sign of Virgo in their natal chart, so I would just encourage you to go look at the chart between Leo and Libra, and you're going to find Virgo right there. It's the sixth sign of the zodiac. And the funny thing about the first six signs of the zodiac, ruling over the first six houses beneath the horizon in the chart, these actually refer to the more self-referential, introverted part of ourself. And Virgo is the last part of ourself. Virgo inherently represents self-improvement, refinement, service, being practical, diligent, or realistic. This is an earth sign after all, and it's a mutable earth sign. Virgo is ruled by the sign of Mercury. Its symbol is the Virgin. And it makes me wonder also, how did they know she was a virgin just looking up at the sky, at the stars? But I digress. Mercury is home here. If you ask my opinion and perspective as a professional astrologer, I believe Chiron also shares home here. We can talk about that later. There's a lot of interesting dignities to talk about with this sign. So Virgo's mantra is I serve. It rules over the sixth house. And this part of our life actually correlates to our vocation, our job, our physical health. These are your responsibilities, your duties and obligations. Your biggest responsibility and obligation is to your physical body. And therefore we see the sixth house and Virgo signify the health, physically speaking. And as above, so below, the principle of correspondence. Aries is your temple, Taurus is the second house. You know, we've got Gemini ruling over the third, Cancer, Leo. When we get down to Virgo, this is the stomach. These are the serotonin symbols, neurological impulses that get sent from the gut to the brain and vice versa. So Virgo is really analytical, really critical, and it's very neurological because, again, Mercury shares a home here. So the biggest key I could give you for Virgo is focus within time and space. This lends itself to Chiron also, by the way. Virgo is all about mutable earth, changing things, adapting things, being willing to dispel energy or create something new with the earth energy, which is, again, very logical, very empirical, but it concerns itself with the material and self-preservation and the visceral senses of the body. And we tie this back to the nerves, man. Virgo people are very efficient. At least they like to think so. And I would say maybe at the best use of this energy is being very efficient. And I said before, if you don't think you have Virgo in your chart, look between Leo and Libra, look at your Mercury, and then look at what sign you have in your sixth house. Look at what sign rules over the sixth house in your chart, and then look at the planet ruling over the sixth house. For example, let's say that you're a Taurus rising. And let's say that you have Libra in your sixth house. This means that the way that you use Virgo energy is probably going to be a little bit more graceful and kind and charming. And you're going to need to look at your Venus even deeper to see how you spend time in your sixth house, being the ruling planet over Libra. Okay? So that being said, let's get back into this archetype, man. This is the last part of self-reference, being the sixth sign of the zodiac. So Virgo is the best at humiliating itself, maybe even others, but I would say that Virgo really is great at humiliating itself. And this doesn't necessarily mean embarrassing yourself. However, this means being able to take something and break it down into its finite pieces, reconstruct it, create more efficiency, take out interference. Virgo energy inherently knows how to better itself and probably all others. But the problem is the disparity between one's own needs and the needs outside of ourselves. Virgo people, and I would say Sun Virgos, Ascendant Virgos, personal planet Virgos, even some of the Pluto Virgo people. If you got Virgo energy strongly within your chart, I would say you're going to inherently have a lot of your self-esteem and self-reference come from your ability to serve other people or create change and help others and create efficiency. Virgo can be very analytical and critical and hardworking and sometimes even tireless in the way that it makes changes to create more efficiency. And this can sometimes be a repercussion of an energy of nervousness. It could be fear, it could be insecurities that get suppressed and then acted out in the external world. So a bad habit that Virgo energy can have is looking outside of itself to fix things when they feel bad, rather than going inside and figuring out what it is they truly actually want. Okay? And you got to keep in mind that Mercury's main function, Virgo's main function is Mercury, which means that instinctually Mercury is mathematical. Virgo's mathematical. It's calculatable. It's subtractive. It's deductive. It likes to check things so things can be in check. So with you having a lot of nerves in your 6th house area, this is why Virgo people can get on others' nerves or their own nerves, because it's never good enough. There's always refinement to be made. There's always efficiency we can create. There's always interference we can remove. And this is what Mercury is about, man. Mercury is always thinking and deducing. And with Mercury orbiting around the sun in about 88 days, being the closest planet to the sun, things happen so fast with Mercury, okay? And this is why I said overstimulation can be a kind of a problem with Virgo, because it's predicated on making change almost constantly. Sometimes there's no change to be made, and you got to just chill the F out and just relax and just let go. Let God, you know, let the universe. Let time pass so you don't feel the need to control everything. If you're a Virgo or you have this energy really strong and you have upper back pain, that's probably your neurology running rampant and you not checking it and refusing to surrender. Those are the words that you need to hear. But deeper than this, guys, let's talk about the other archetypes for Virgo. We know Mercury's home here, so the real MO is about analysis. But on the other end, we could say that Pisces, being the opposite sign, mutable water, the 12th house, Neptune and Jupiter are going to fall in the sign of Virgo, okay? And Jupiter is all about meaning and expansion and optimism and growth and luck. And Virgo doesn't really give a shit about that, quite honestly. Virgo said, fuck luck, I'm gonna make my own by checking the facts, creating a system, putting pressure on the system so I can ensure results. This can tell you that Virgo people may sometimes be a little bit more cynical than other people. They may be a little bit colder and drier, such is the earth element, the temperament of earth, because they would rather not leave things up to chance or speculation. Virgo knows how to deduce, and it would rather take control over the system and the process than surrendering to an external force and hoping to get lucky. When you take Neptune, also co-ruling Pisces, falling in Virgo, this is going to tell you that Virgo people, or the Virgo energy, isn't necessarily concerned with imagination or fantasy or illusion. I mean, and quite honestly, man, there's a healthy fear of delusion when it comes to Virgo and getting lost in the sauce and sinking your ship off Niagara Falls. Virgo people don't want to do that, man. Virgo people like to be calculated, and this might come off as austere. And the challenge with the earth element and the water element, I would say, is that by being so naturally security oriented and therefore pessimistic, we will never get rid of risk. So we just have to learn how to calculate our risk and minimize our risk to the best of our ability, and then make consistent, intermittent investments in our expansion into the way that we know would be conducive to growth. And this is how Virgo uses Jupiter, by putting one foot in front of the other and not just jumping out the window with both feet and figuring out where you land later. Jupiter Leo could do that. Jupiter Sag could probably do that. Jupiter Pisces could probably do that. Jupiter Virgo, on the other hand, is going to get a little bit of a nervousness from thinking about this. And if you think about Jupiter Virgo, this is the detriment of Jupiter. Like we said, this is the opposite sign of its home. So when you have Jupiter Virgo in your chart, you try to put a lot of meaning in reason and philosophical understanding to the little tiny Mercury deductive reasoning. And this is quite literally getting on nerves. Expansion on what? Virgo. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes the Virgo energy can get a little bit disillusioned naturally with its opposition to Pisces, because we understand the significance and meaning of where focus goes and that everything is connected. So mind over matter is a thing. To what extent does correspondence interplay with my physical experiences? To what extent? That's literally the question. And Virgo people can ask themselves this question all day, every day for the rest of their life, and maybe not even get too much closer to the answer. And that is something to think about. At 11:11, y'all saw that? Because when it comes down to Virgo energy, especially when we put it through Jupiter, Virgo would be inclined to say, I see the facts, and it's not that deep. However, when you consider the world in a philosophical, spiritual, or metaphysical context, we actually understand and we actually know it's way deeper than it meets the eyes. It's actually way deeper than anybody can even fathom or comprehend. So when it comes down to evolution or learning or diving in that pool of rainbow water, how much air can you take in? How deep under the water can you get? This is kind of the questions, metaphorically speaking, to ask yourself. So I know we're kind of Pisces at this point, but let's bring it back to the Virgo. Why doesn't Neptune really mess with Virgo? In a weird way, I want to stop right there and rephrase this, because from a Libra moon to my friends on the internet, I just want to say, guys, I don't feel right about judging the essential dignities of astrology. Like, we could say that domiciles and exaltations and falls and detriment and rulership is a thing, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's necessarily fair to be like, Jupiter doesn't do well in Virgo or Neptune doesn't do well in Virgo. Realistically, the external pressures or internal pressures that these challenging placements might have could be real, but on the other end, this would lend itself to higher payoff and better results. So you probably won't meet anybody with Neptune and Virgo in your life unless you know the doctor's secret. So share that with me. You know, if you want to make it to the Pluto return, let's put our heads together and live long and prosper. But Neptune and Virgo really speaks to me about finding the flow and finding the rhythm and understanding serenity. And there's a prayer in Christianity, which I know on my inside, so if I butcher this, I'm sorry. It's a Mercury retrograde. They say, God, and I want to say Goddess, because that's how I'm feeling today. Goddess, please grant me the strength to change the things I can't accept, the serenity to accept the things I can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference. This feels like Neptune Virgo energy, creating a system for everything in your life, but also including the universe in your system, including the more metaphysical layers of perception and reality, so you know how to surrender. I read in a book called Exploring Jupiter by Stephen Arroyo a quote, and it wasn't Stephen who said this, so I forget the name, but good book, by the way. Life gets really easy for you when you're easy in your harness, because there's levels to this shit, man. So basically saying the Virgo energy is got it covered. And what I mean by that is, inherently being the most practical and diligent sign of the zodiac, Virgo inherently knows how to improve itself. It knows how to solve its own problems. Honestly, man, if you guys are really tuned into your Virgo energy, you may relate to the frustration of getting interrupted by people. You may feel like you need 24 more hours in a day, or maybe 48 more hours in a day to accomplish all your projects and tasks. And you may feel like the external influences in the world only slow you down and hold you back from doing what you really want to do. Like, your life is in check until it comes to people. This is Virgo energy in a nutshell, man. It's like, I have control over me, And that's fun and comfortable for me. But consequently, man, when you get so far into Virgo energy and doing your own improvements and chasing your own curiosities and aptitudes, and you reject the interference and don't let anything else get into your schedule or process, that's cool. You will probably flow, but you're going to miss a lot of the reinforcement from the external world. And this is where Virgo can get a little bit more cynical and really take its Jupiter to the wrong ends, and maybe even take Neptune to the wrong ends, where if a Virgo is too emotionally invested or passionately invested in their process, they may have a tendency to get preachy and critical and even play out the Neptunian delusion, where they're lost in the sauce, man, and everything that they want makes sense to them through a Mercury level. So they'd have the tendency to project their wants and needs onto other people in such a logical and deductive way that they might not even realize that they're lost, because it actually makes sense to them as well. And this leads us onto a couple more planets that we need to talk about when it comes to the Virgo energy, is that Venus exalts in Pisces and therefore falls in the Virgo constellation. So Virgo people are very smart, they're very analytical. And when I say Virgo people, I'm actually talking about everybody again. I know I've been saying this, but you're Virgo probably more than you understand. And if you do understand, good for you. But the problem with the Virgo energy is it's really easy to feel unappreciated, because Venus in a nutshell is about growth and happiness and love and relationship. And Virgo energy is about refinement. So in a nutshell, man, we could say Virgo actually loves growth. Virgo actually loves relationships. Virgo actually loves connection. And it loves expansion, Jupiter, and imagination, Neptune. However, it has to do this in a very Mercury deductive, mutable Earth way, or else it just doesn't make sense to Virgo. So when you think about Venus in Virgo, or you have Venus transiting your 6th house or something to that effect, or, you know, Mercury, Venus angles hitting hard, this is going to say that compromise might be a little bit harder because efficiency is the underlying factor or the intention. So service is the theme again. There are those 5 love languages like quality time, service, physical touch, words of affirmation, gifts. I feel like all of us probably do like all 5 of them to some extent, but the Virgo energy really would lend itself to valuing service more than anything else, about being able to assess someone's needs and understand where they're at and be able to do something that's conducive to helping them grow. This is what Virgo Venus really would appreciate and love. So it's imperative with the Virgo energy to not leave things up to assumption, or not to project, because Mercury rules over this sign again. It's very analytical and it's going to make sense to you. So if you make assumptions, you could be wrong. It's just imperative to understand what you want and then ask for what you want so you can actually get that met. And when we talk about the Virgo Pisces axis when it comes to Venus and relationships, codependency is a big thing to think about, guys. Some people use their Virgo energy to serve others to the best of their ability while overlooking their own needs. And this lends it to others making sacrifices in relationships, suffering obliquely without asking for what you want, in the hopes that another person will catch on subconsciously or in a feminine way, start to reciprocate what they have been receiving. And this can lead to a lot of disillusionment or separation or distance between people, feeling betrayed or neglected and misused or mistreated. The example I like to give to a lot of people who have Virgo Venus in their chart when I'm reading for them is like, you know, if you really value service and things being practical and fair, we're going to take it on a very small level, because I know we just talked about codependency, which runs pretty deep, and this can get wild. But think about how if you were partnered or had a spouse or had a lover or something like that, and I like to use me as an example, but also we're going to get somewhere to Neptune, because I've never necessarily done this. But let's say Virgo Venus person works from home, and I don't have Virgo Venus, but they work at the house and they're at the home and they're doing their thing, and their spouse works away from the home. So like, you know, let's say their spouse comes home and Virgo Venus has been tidying up and getting their stuff done and making sure everything is organized and diligent and clean and precise for everybody to enjoy in the house. And, you know, spouse gets home and throws their coat on the table and throws their wallet down and their keys or whatever. And, you know, the Virgo Venus person might be ready to serve and be like, thank God my lover is home. So let me go put their coat on the coat rack, and I might go put the wallet where it goes and hang the keys up and, you know, get the snack ready or whatever. And let's think about the roles being reversed sometime. It's like Virgo Venus inherently loves the people that they're around. Any Venus is going to love the people that you relate to in some way, or else you wouldn't be in a relationship. But the Virgo Venus person is going to maybe naturally predicate their expression of love towards service for the most part. So with the roles being reversed, let's say that Virgo Venus runs some errands and hubby or spouse is at the home for the day, and you have a busy day and you get home and you are exhausted and you throw the coat on the couch and you throw all your stuff on the table and you go and take a nap, and then, you know, your spouse is off for the day, and you wake up maybe 3 hours later after your nap or whatever, and you see that your stuff is still sprawled out and there's no snack and there's no smoothie being made for you, and you're just like, damn, you clearly had the time to do this, and you clearly saw that there was the ability to do this, and you understand that this is where this goes. But because Virgo Venus might not have shared that expectation or said, hey, can you meet me halfway, they might feel slighted, aggressed, or violated by the lack of reciprocity. And quite honestly, man, it doesn't really matter where the other person's Venus is, but this could just be literally them being busy, or them not necessarily paying attention to it, or them expressing their love a little bit differently. So again, there is a difference in a disparity oftentimes between what one person needs and wants as opposed to what another person needs and wants. And what's kind of funny, because we are talking about love languages, I want to keep it astrological, but just food for thought. Your love languages are what you like. And most of the time, you might try to share your love languages with other people. So it's important to discuss and correlate and converse. Conversate's not a word, so I was trying really hard not to say that. To converse about expectations and what another person really wants, because the way you give love might not be the way they receive it. And this can, understanding this ahead of the time, man, can save a lot of people a lot of disappointment, heartbreak, feeling of rejection when it doesn't actually exist, okay? It's like meet me halfway energy. But at the same time, if your expectations are convoluted or obtuse, you may put expectations on other people that are unnecessary or just oblique distractions from your own insecurities. And that's as real as it gets, man, quite honestly, with the Virgo Venus energy, is that if you don't feel valued, you don't feel appreciated, you don't love yourself, you may search everywhere outside of you and never find it. And with Venus falling in Virgo, this is inherently why Virgo people can feel somewhat unappreciated by others, because of their natural ability to see the details in the system and the process of anything they're involved with, as well as the people. So naturally, almost instinctually, the Virgo archetype is predicated on making change, meaningful adjustments, and serving others. And when a Virgo person is able to see their environment not reciprocate, measure up to the standards that they themselves hold themselves to, it's only natural for a Virgo to feel neglected, abandoned, unappreciated, not seen, accepted. You gotta keep it real with yourself, Virgos, and love yourself, and appreciate yourself, and validate yourself for all of your hard work and all of the processes that you've optimized and all the efficiency that you've created. Because at the end of the day, the biggest gift Virgo has is processing. And you already know, if you have this energy and you're connected to it, that you cannot put pressure on yourself. Pressure does one of two things. It creates a diamond or it busts your pipe. So it's gonna do you really well to create systems in your life to put external forces into, so your life can just flow and you can surrender to the divine in the universe. And now we're gonna talk about Chiron. Chiron is lit. Is it, I was about to count, it's like the 6th or 7th body after the sun. Doesn't necessarily matter which way you count it, but Saturn is the gatekeeper. It's the last planet you can see without the aid of a telescope. Chiron is right after Saturn's orbit, and this bridges us into the outer planets of Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Chiron is the switch, it's the key. It turns us into metaphysical awareness. So Chiron represents healing, it represents initiation, it represents trauma, and it represents our gifts. And with Chiron being discovered in 1977, astrologically, we've been retrospectively analyzing and putting it in charts and looking at how it affects people and events. And a lot of astrologers, myself included, believe and subscribe to the rulership of Virgo. Not everybody. Some would say it's Libra. I've heard some say it's Sagittarius. Chiron in mythology is a centaur. I get the Sag thing. In my opinion, Chiron exalts in Sagittarius. So I see a parallel, but it would be home in Virgo, fall in Pisces, exalt in Sag, fall in Gemini. So the point of Chiron is to bridge the awareness from the metaphysical to the physical. And we got into this kind of deep when we talked about Neptune, but Virgo is inherently very good about this because it has a key depth of focus. And as above, so below, so within, so without. Everything is connected through the principle of correspondence. So when you pay attention to anything in your life, in the physical world, the question becomes, why am I paying attention to this? Barbara Hand Clow, the author of Chiron, the rainbow bridge between the inner and outer planets, calls Chiron's function focus in time and space. Focus in time and space. And that is so appropriate. I could not think of a better way to describe Chiron. This is going to get a little bit hard for me to say it this way, but I tell people Chiron describes your consciousness, because this is how the soul is able to overlook and understand everything in your solar system, the inner and the outer. So Chiron lends itself to the metaphysical awareness that you have that doesn't necessarily make sense in reality, but when you're able to rise above the illusions of the Maya, the Matrix, the dense, immutable forces of Saturn, you can start to understand how spirit interpolates with matter. And Chiron ends up showing you why your high level of awareness, maybe even overstimulation, lends itself to frustration with any sign or house of Chiron. And if you are not hip with Chiron, somewhere in my YouTube, not too far down, there's a whole video breaking down all the Chiron signs and houses, and I'd recommend you watch it. Chiron really represents the source of your gifts when you get past the pain and the suffering and take responsibility for the suffering, aka put some Saturn on it. So, deeper than this brings us right back to the archetype of surrender, of being able to let go and trust. And then take your pain, your suffering, and integrate it into something useful. Take it back through the Virgo, produce something with it, or make something more practical or efficient. So really, Virgo, even before we knew about Chiron, had a signification to healing and being able to fix the physical health or routinely organize our circumstances and situations. And with the polarity of Pisces, the way that we spend our time is divine, whether you believe it or not. Mark my words, man. I'm trying to be real careful in a Mercury retrograde how I talk to y'all. The way you spend your time is divine, as above, so below. The way that you focus inherently reflects your unconscious and your belief system and your connection to the world. The place you are physically in your third and sixth house and the things that you experience physically are a reflection of where your spirit is on a higher plane of existence. And at the end of the day, the question just is, what am I doing? Why am I here? Who am I? I think we ask these all the time, but let me make it a sharper point. What service am I truly providing for the world? And we can take it through the Earth triad, you know, Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo. I like to take it through the 10th house. What do you want to be remembered for? What is your legacy about? How can you create that and actualize that? This is really what we think about when it comes down to Virgo and Chiron and sharing the gift with the world. When you reflect back to your own trauma and suffering, this may be an initiation to something greater. And sharing your gifts that you've learned through your own struggles not only helps other people, but it can lend itself to a cathartic release of your own pain, which is really the gift of Chiron. And the gift of Virgo is to transcend our suffering through gratitude, meaning, and sacrifice. And that's beautiful. It's not necessarily easy. I think it's kind of hard, but that might be a reason in itself to do it. It's like JFK said, man, we choose to go to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard, man. And we're not going to the moon today. We're going to Chiron. We're going to jump through Pluto. We're going to jump through all those outer planets. Shout out to the James Webb Space Telescope, man, because astrology and astronomy is going to get weird. Really fucking weird. Really fucking fast. Mark my words and pardon my French. evolution is happening in real time as we speak. And shit is so simple that you might overlook it. But at the end of the day, either way it goes, pay attention to your Virgo, pay attention to your gifts, share your gifts with the world so the world can continue to advance itself and optimize itself and accelerate the mission, the point of this journey on all levels. Because this world is so much bigger than any one of us individually. This is the inherent problem with Virgo, is we have to know how to serve, and we need to know how to serve truly and identify the needs, desires of other people so that our life can naturally become fulfilling through our investment into the world, and that our sacrifices can be intentional and meaningful and not unnecessary or delusional or weak and lend themselves to unnecessary suffering. So I love you guys. If you got something from this video, this is the time for you to hit that like button, drop a comment, share the video, do all the things, man. I have less than 100 copies of my book, Simplified Astrology Volume 1, First Edition. Get your hands on that, and you're gonna get the free audiobook and the ebook sent to you instantly. So I'll read the book before you get the book in your mail, if that's something that you're interested in. It is something you're interested in. Trying to do my Jedi mind tricks. You want the book, and you're buying the book right now, and you're going to simplifiedastrology.com, and you're grabbing one of these priceless relics that will not be reprinted. Do yourself a favor. Don't snooze, because if you don't, someone else will. And I want to thank you guys for the fact that that's facts. Yeah, I love that, man. I appreciate every one of you guys. My third house, Chiron, wants to pour my heart out for you, but this is half an hour, so we're going to shut it off. I'll see you guys soon. Tap into TikTok. We're doing a whole new series on simplified astrology, and you don't want to miss it. Blessed be, blessed we.